Hello, bedtime thinkers, and welcome to the Bedtime Discoveries. I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. Together, we will take a slow, gentle journey into the quiet heart of nature, where forests, the great lungs of our planet, breathe life into the world. Forests stretch like emerald oceans across the land. They give us oxygen, shelter wildlife, and balance the rhythms of our earth. Tonight, as you rest, we will explore how forests quietly support every breath we take. We will wander softly through their mysteries and let their calmness soothe our thoughts. Before we begin, I would love to know where you are listening from. Perhaps you can share your country, your city, or even just the time of night. Write it gently in the comments so we can see how many places in the world are connected under the same sky. And if you enjoy these gentle journeys, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the Bedtime Discoveries. Your support helps us keep creating peaceful stories. For your evenings and for your dreams, close your eyes for a moment and take a slow, gentle breath. Feel the air moving softly through your nose, down into your lungs, and then drifting back out again. This simple rhythm, inhale, exhale, has been with you since the very first moment of your life and will carry you gently until the very last. But have you ever wondered, where does this air come from? What makes it possible for us to breathe? The answer lies far beyond your room tonight, far beyond your city. It lies in the endless expanse of forests spread across our planet. Forests are often called the lungs of the earth. And just like your own lungs, which exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen, these great green landscapes perform a similar miracle, but on a planetary scale. Imagine for a moment a single tree, tall and steady, its trunk rising like a pillar of time, its branches stretched wide like arms open in embrace. This tree quietly draws in the invisible carbon dioxide floating in the air, and then, through an ancient process, one older than all human history, it releases oxygen, fresh, life-giving oxygen, back into the world. Each breath you take tonight carries whispers of trees like this from forests near and far. Now, let us walk slowly through this first keynote and discover how forests truly are the breath of the planet. Breathing is such a quiet act, so constant, that we rarely notice it. And yet in every moment, you are connected to the green world outside. With every inhale, with every exhale. If you were to follow the path of the air you just breathed in, you would find that much of its oxygen began in the leafy crowns of forests. Leaves are like tiny solar panels, gathering the sun's light. Inside them, countless little factories called chloroplasts work tirelessly. They drink in carbon dioxide from the air. They sip water from the roots below. And with the golden energy of sunlight, they transform these simple things into sugars to feed the tree, and into oxygen, the invisible gift released back to the sky. This process is called photosynthesis, and it is the heartbeat of life on Earth. Pause here for a moment and think of how vast this process is. Billions upon billions of leaves across every forest, working in silence day after day, year after year. Also, the air remains balanced, fresh, and breathable. It is easy to forget, when you live in a city of steel and stone, that your every breath is linked to these faraway forests. But deep down, there is a connection, a thread that ties your lungs to the endless green lungs of Earth. Let's imagine a child sitting beneath a large oak tree in springtime. The air is soft, carrying the smell of earth and leaves. As the child takes a deep breath, the chest fills with calm. And though unseen, The molecules of oxygen entering the child's body were created only moments before inside the leaves above. In that breath, the forest and the child become one. The oak tree breathes out and the child breathes in. Later, when the child exhales, a little carbon dioxide drifts back, and the oak, grateful and timeless, will take it in. A cycle of giving and receiving, a partnership as old as life itself. This is the invisible gift of forests, a gift we receive with every single breath. Now, expand your mind beyond a single oak and imagine the Amazon rainforest, often called the green heart of our planet. Billions of trees, each leaf shimmering with sunlight, each one exhaling oxygen in a great and silent symphony. If you were to stand on the forest floor, you might hear birds, insects, distant monkeys calling the canopy. But above these sounds is another kind of music, a music beyond hearing, the music of countless breaths given freely by the trees. This is the planetary lung at work. Every forest, from the rain-drenched tropics to the dark pine woods of the north, joins in this quiet breathing. Together, they weave a safety net of air, a balance that allows humans, animals, and all living things to survive on this fragile blue world. And so, when we speak of forests as the lungs of Earth, we are not speaking in poetry alone. We are speaking of a real, measurable, and vital truth. Yet, as with all things in nature, balance is delicate. Forests inhale carbon dioxide, they exhale oxygen, but they also store carbon deep within their trunks and soil. Without them, the air would quickly grow heavy, unbreathable. Without them, the Earth's lungs would falter. And so, as you breathe tonight, remember that your breath is not yours alone. It is shared with forests, with oceans, with all life that came before you, and all life that will follow. This is the invisible gift, the breath of the planet, a gift we carry gently within us. Take another slow, gentle breath with me now. Inhale, hold it softly, and exhale. The simple rise and fall of your chest, the rhythm of your breath, is mirrored in the vast, patient breathing of the forests. In the first part, we spoke of the invisible gift of oxygen and how every leaf and every tree quietly supports life on Earth. Now, let us drift a little deeper into the science of this great exchange, and also into the stories of how forests have shaped the breath of our planet across deep time, long before humans, long before even the great dinosaurs. This planet breathed in a very different way. Billions of years ago, the atmosphere was heavy with gases, but oxygen was rare. It was not forests, for there were no trees yet. It was tiny organisms living in the sea that first learned to capture sunlight and release oxygen into the air. These were the ancestors of plants, small, humble, yet powerful. Over millions of years, their patient work transformed Earth's skies, turning it from a suffocating blanket into an atmosphere where life could flourish. And when the first forests finally appeared hundreds of millions of years ago, they expanded this gift tenfold. Towering tree-like plants, some with trunks wider than your whole body, spread across swampy lands. Their roots anchored soil, their leaves reached upward, and their breath began to shape the climate of the planet itself. So, when we look at a forest today, we are not just seeing trees. We are seeing the result of a story billions of years long, a story of oxygen, a story of breath. Think again of your own lungs. Inside them are millions of tiny air sacs called alveoli. Each one is like a little chamber where carbon dioxide leaves your blood and oxygen flows in. Now, imagine each leaf of a tree as something very similar. On its underside, tiny pores open and close, letting carbon dioxide enter and oxygen escape. Just as your lungs contain millions of alveoli, a forest contains billions of leaves, each performing the same quiet miracle. The lungs inside you and the lungs of the earth outside you are not so different after all. Let us picture this exchange more clearly. During the day when sunlight is strong, trees and plants drink in carbon dioxide. They combine it with water drawn up through their roots. And with the energy of sunlight, they craft food, sugars, energy to live. And in return, oxygen drifts out through those tiny pores, floating upward into the air, spreading with the winds, until at last you breathe it in. This cycle continues without pause, without complaint. It does not matter if you live in a busy city or on a quiet mountain. Some of the oxygen you breathe tonight was made thousands of miles away in a distant forest you may never see. Imagine standing on a riverbank deep in the Amazon. The air is thick with humidity, and the canopy above feels endless. You watch as sunlight filters through the leaves, golden and soft. Birds call overhead, and the slow drip of water falls from high branches. In this vast rainforest, countless leaves are working together, breathing out oxygen in a great invisible tide. You inhale deeply and you realize that the air filling your lungs right now may have been released only minutes ago from the leaf of a tree swaying gently in the breeze above you. This invisible bond ties you not just to one tree, but to the entire living network of the forest. But forests are not only oxygen makers. At night, when sunlight fades, the process of photosynthesis pauses. The trees still live, still grow, and so they breathe as well. They take in oxygen and release a little carbon dioxide. This may sound surprising, but remember, breathing belongs to all living things. The difference is that during the day, the oxygen they create far outweighs what they use. So across each sunrise and sunset, the balance of the forest still leans toward giving, not taking. It is a balance, the rhythm, one that mirrors the rise and fall of your chest, one that keeps the air of our planet safe and steady. And so, forests become more than just local places. They are part of a great worldwide network of breathing. The Amazon in South America, the Congo Basin in Africa, the temperate forests of North America, the taigas stretching across Russia and Canada, each one exhales oxygen. Each one absorbs carbon dioxide. And together, they keep the very chemistry of our atmosphere in balance. Without this balance, life would struggle. But with it, the earth breathes easily. And so do we. When you next step outside, even if it is only onto a balcony, pause for a moment, breathe in slowly, and imagine the silent conversation taking place. You inhale oxygen, offered to you by forests, by trees, by leaves. You exhale carbon dioxide, a breath that may drift across oceans, to be caught by a leaf on the other side of the world. This exchange, this dialogue is endless. You and the forests, sharing breath, sharing life. And so, dear listener, as you rest tonight, remember this truth. Your breath is not yours alone. It is shared with the great forests of Earth, with the lungs of our planet. Each inhale is their gift to you. Each exhale is your gift back to them. A cycle as old as time, a partnership as delicate as dawn, a reminder that you are never truly separate from nature. You are part of its great and gentle breath. Imagine walking into a forest path at dawn. The air is cool, moist, carrying the scent of pine and soil. As you take a breath, you may feel something shift inside you. The air feels fresher, cleaner, almost alive. This is not your imagination. Science tells us that forest air is indeed special. It is filled with tiny natural particles released by trees, called phytoncides. These gentle compounds float invisibly in the air, and when you breathe them in, your body responds in surprising ways. Your stress lowers, your heart rate softens, your immune system even grows stronger. So, when you stand in a forest and take that deep, refreshing breath, you are not just filling your lungs with oxygen. You are taking in the healing chemistry of the trees themselves. There is a practice in Japan called Shinrin-yoku, which means forest bathing. It is not about swimming or washing, but simply walking slowly among trees, breathing deeply, and letting the forest air surround you. Doctors in Japan sometimes prescribe forest bathing to reduce anxiety, lower blood pressure, and improve sleep. It is as though the forests are whispering, "Calm yourself, rest, breathe." Imagine yourself now, walking gently along a mossy path, each step soft, each breath deep. The forest is breathing with you, and in this quiet companionship, you feel safe, you feel whole. Even when you are not inside a forest, the breath of forest still reaches you. The air in your city, perhaps mixed with fumes and noise, still carries oxygen that began in distant leaves. The Amazon rainforest, the Congo basin, the Great Siberian taiga, they all send invisible streams of oxygen outward until it circles the globe and arrives quietly where you live. So even as you sit in your room tonight, perhaps in a place far from trees, you are still breathing with the forests. They reach you through every breeze, every gust of wind, through every sigh of air that drifts across the planet. But as delicate as this gift is, it is also fragile. When forests are cut down, their breathing slows. When fires sweep across their trunks and leaves, the balance of oxygen and carbon is broken. The lungs of Earth can become scarred, and the rhythm of the planet's breath can stumble. This is why protecting forests matters, not only for animals, not only for beauty, but for the very air we breathe. Every tree lost is a little less oxygen, a little less balance, a little less safety for the future, and every tree saved is a guardian of breath, a partner in life. Let us pause now and imagine the earth itself as a living being. Imagine the forest as its lungs rising and falling slowly. Every sunrise, the great inhale. Every sunset, a gentle exhale. The winds are its whispers, the clouds its drifting thoughts. And here you are, a tiny part of that body, breathing in harmony with it. You are not separate from the earth. You are not separate from its forests. Every inhale you take tonight is a thread connecting you to the planet's ancient breath. And so, dear listener, this first keynote reminds us of something very simple, yet very profound. Forests are not just places of wood and shade. They're the lungs of Earth. They're the reason the air fills your chest tonight. They're the partners quietly breathing with you across all time. Every breath you take is shared with the oak in your park, with the pine on a mountain slope, with the vast rainforest oceans of green. And in this sharing, you are never alone. You're always part of the quiet rhythm of the great breath of the planet. So breathe gently now and carry the gift of the forest with you with every inhale and every exhale. When you think of forest, perhaps the first image that comes to mind is a towering crown of trees stretching upward and outward until they weave together into something almost endless, something vast and green. This is a great canopy of the forest, a living roof created by countless branches and leaves, all touching, all overlapping, all forming a second world above the ground. The canopy is often called the ceiling of the forest, yet it is far more than a ceiling. It is alive, it breathes, it hums with activity. It filters light, allowing only scattered beams to reach the ground. It catches raindrops, slowing them, softening their fall. It holds the songs of birds, the leaps of monkeys, the secret lives of insects. It is a place both hidden and immense, one of the most mysterious regions on our planet. Imagine lying on your back beneath the trees, looking upward to the lattice of branches. You see sunlight breaking into tiny fragments, scattered in patterns that dance across the leaves. The air seems softer here, the shadows cooler. Every flicker of light tells you that above, there is a kingdom of life suspended in the treetops. The great green canopy is not only beautiful, it is essential. It plays a role in the rhythm of Earth itself. It holds within it more life than many of us can imagine. For while the forest floor is quiet and shaded, the canopy above is bursting with energy. It is like a bustling city layered with countless homes, countless small universes. Within the canopy, birds perch on branches, building their nests high above the ground. Some birds may never touch the earth in their lifetimes, living entirely among the leaves. Insects crawl along bark and stems, each one finding food and shelter in this elevated world. Tiny frogs cling to damp leaves, their skin glistening in the filtered light. Monkeys swing from branch to branch, their voices carrying through the endless green roof. And in the stillness of night, bats unfurl their wings and take flight from hidden hollows. The canopy is not a single flat roof, but many layers. Imagine it like a layered cake of life, stacked one above the other. At the very top is the emergent layer, where the tallest trees pierce the sky. These giants rise above the rest, their crowns catching the full power of the sun and the fiercest winds. Below them lies the true canopy, a dense roof where most of the branches intertwine. Beneath that, the understory grows, dim and sheltered, where smaller trees and shrubs find their place. And finally, on the ground, lies the forest floor, dark and quiet, receiving only the faintest glow of sunlight. This structure is not random. It is nature's design, a design that creates endless opportunities for life. By dividing the forest into layers, the canopy allows many species to share the same space without competing directly. Birds of prey may soar in the emergent layer, while smaller songbirds find safety in the canopy itself. Frogs may thrive in the damp understory, while jaguars prowl silently on the floor. Every layer is a neighborhood, every branch a street, every leaf a doorway into another world. Think of the canopy as a great filter of light. Only a fraction of the sun's rays ever reach the soil below. Instead, most of the energy is captured by the leaves above, powering the growth of trees and feeding the animals that depend on them. If you were to stand in the Amazon rainforest at midday, you would find yourself surrounded by twilight. Even when the sun blazes above, the canopy blocks much of the glare, leaving the ground in perpetual shadow. It is as though the trees themselves have built a shelter to protect the forest's heart from the harshness of the world outside. The canopy also acts as a shield of water. When rain falls from the sky, it does not strike the earth directly. Instead, it lands on the leaves, dripping slowly down, spreading gently across the layers. What might have been a sudden storm becomes a soft shower by the time it reaches the forest floor. In this way, the canopy protects the soil, preventing it from being washed away. It nourishes the ground gradually, like a careful hand pouring water into the roots of life. There is a mystery, too, hidden high above. For centuries, people could only guess at what lived in the canopy. It was too high to climb, too dangerous to reach. But in recent decades, with ropes, bridges, and even cranes, scientists have begun to explore this second world. And what they have found is astonishing. Thousands of species, some never seen before, live only in the canopy. They have no need for the forest floor. They thrive in the sunlight, in the damp leaves, in the endless network of branches. Imagine a scientist standing on a platform suspended among the trees, looking out across a sea of green that stretches farther than the eye can see. Birds dart past, butterflies dance in the warm air, and hidden somewhere in the foliage, new discoveries await. The canopy is a frontier of life, still unfolding its secrets to us. But beyond its mysteries, the canopy plays another role. It is part of the planet's great breath. Every leaf, stretched toward the light, is a tiny factory of oxygen. Together, the billions of leaves in the canopy form one of the largest photosynthetic engines on Earth. Their combined work creates not only oxygen, but also the balance of gases that makes our atmosphere safe to breathe. And yet, the canopy does more than give you us air. It shapes the weather itself. By releasing water vapor, by cooling the land beneath, by drawing carbon dioxide, the canopy becomes a silent engineer of climate. Without it, rainfall would change, rivers would shrink, and entire regions would grow dry. With it, the Earth's cycles continue steady and balanced. To sit beneath a canopy is to sit beneath centuries of history. Some of these trees are older than any living human, their roots reaching back through time. Generations of animals have been born and have passed away in their branches. Generations of people, too, finding food, shelter, and stories among the trees. The canopy has always been both protector and provider, a roof over the head of the Earth's many children. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the canopy as seen from above, perhaps from the wing of a bird soaring high. Below you lies an endless ocean of green. Every ripple is a crown of leaves, every swell a giant tree. The canopy stretches farther than the horizon, unbroken, majestic, alive. This is a great green canopy of Earth, the roof of the living world. It is easy to forget in our busy lives how much we depend on this canopy. It is easy to forget that the air we breathe, the rains that fall, the food we eat, the medicines we discover, all trace back in some way to the forest and their roof of green. And yet, even if forgotten, the canopy continues breathing, sheltering, protecting. It asks nothing in return, except to be allowed to endure. As you breathe gently now, know that you are part of this vast system. Your lungs are not separate from the canopy. They are mirrors of one another. You inhale oxygen that leaves have offered. You exhale carbon dioxide that leaves will take in. This exchange, this endless cycle, is a quiet bond between you and the trees. So, when you think of the great green canopy, think not only of branches and leaves, but of a home, a cathedral of life, a shelter for the earth itself. And know, as you rest tonight, that above the darkened ground of forests, far away or near, the canopy continues its ancient work, weaving sunlight into breath, weaving rain into rivers, weaving balance into the life of the planet. Breathe slowly, and imagine yourself resting beneath that endless roof of green, safe, calm, and at peace. carried gently by the great canopy of earth. Take a deep, slow breath with me now. Let it fill your chest, and then let it drift away. The air you just breathed in, invisible, weightless, so ordinary that we rarely stop to notice it, is the very foundation of life. Without oxygen, our bodies would fall silent in moments. Without oxygen, the world as we know it would wither. And so we turn our attention now to the forests, the great oxygen factories of Earth. The phrase may sound mechanical, as though the forest were some vast machine, but in truth, it is far more delicate, far more graceful than any engine humans could ever build. Every tree, every bush, every fern and moss is a quiet worker in this endless factory, a worker powered not by fire or electricity, but by the golden touch of sunlight itself. The process, simple and yet miraculous, is called photosynthesis. Within the thin green skin of leaves, inside tiny cells, there are structures called chloroplasts. They are like the glowing furnaces of this natural factory. Each chloroplast holds chlorophyll, the pigment that gives leaves their emerald color. But chlorophyll is not only decoration. It is a catcher of light, a net spun to trap photons from the sun. When sunlight falls on a leaf, chlorophyll drinks it in, like a baker mixing flour and water. The leaf combines that sunlight with carbon dioxide drawn from the air and water pulled up through roots. Out of this mixture, the leaf creates sugar, food to feed the tree, energy to keep it alive, and as a byproduct, almost as though we're breathing out with a sigh, the leaf releases oxygen molecules that rise and drift into the sky, molecules that fill your lungs now. As you listen, think of it billions upon billions of leaves spread across the continents, all working silently, all gathering light, all producing oxygen. Each one is tiny, yet together they shape the very atmosphere. They ensure that this planet, unlike so many barren worlds, remains alive, full of breath. Imagine yourself standing in a great rainforest. It is morning, and the sun is just beginning to climb. Beams of light cut through the mist, turning the forest into a glowing cathedral of green. Everywhere around you, leaves are opening to the day, each one turning toward the light. And in this moment, across every branch, oxygen begins to flow outward, invisible rivers of air joining together, forming a tide that washes over the earth. It is humbling to realize how dependent we are on these factories of oxygen. Without them, we would not last. The air we breathe is not endless. It must be renewed constantly, every second of every day. And it is the forests, the trees, the plants that take on this task for us. But forests do more than produce oxygen. They also consume carbon dioxide, the gas we release each time we exhale, the gas created when we burn fuels, when we light fires, when we live our daily lives. Without forests, this carbon would build and build, choking the skies, warming the earth, unsettling the delicate balance. Yet the trees stand quietly, absorbing what we give off, cleansing the air, transforming it into life again. Picture a giant oak tree in your mind. Its trunk rises steady and strong, its crown spreading like an umbrella of green. In 1 year, that single oak may produce enough oxygen for 2 people to breathe. Now picture a forest of oaks or pines or maples stretching across hills and valleys, and imagine the ocean of oxygen they create together, not for 2 people, not for 10, but for entire communities, entire cities, entire generations. And then picture the Amazon rainforest, the vastest forest of them all, stretching over millions of square kilometers. Its trees and plants release such an enormous amount of oxygen that it is often called the lungs of the world. Though the science is complex, And much of that oxygen is used by the forest itself. The symbolism remains true. Without these enormous living systems, our atmosphere would be unrecognizable, our lives impossible. The factory of oxygen is not confined to the tropics, in the cool northern latitudes. In the endless taiga forests of Russia and Canada, pines and firs, spruces and larches carry out the same process. Their needles, narrow and sharp, are still capable of gathering light, still capable of releasing oxygen. In these quiet frozen lands, the breath of the earth continues just as it does in the steaming jungles of the equator. Everywhere there are plants, there is oxygen. Even the smallest moss on a rock, even the faintest grass sprouting between cracks of a city sidewalk, they are all workers in the same factory, humble, tireless, unnoticed, and yet utterly essential. Think of your body again, your lungs, your blood. Each time you breathe in, oxygen molecules enter your bloodstream, binding to hemoglobin, traveling to every cell. They allow your cells to release energy, to burn fuel, to live. Without that oxygen, the flame of life within you would flicker and fade. The forests are, quite literally, the keepers of your fire. There is something comforting in this thought, that every time you take a breath, you are linked to the green world, to the canopy of leaves, to the whisper of branches, to the endless chain of trees reaching skyward. Your breath is not yours alone. It is shared, part of a cycle older than humanity itself. Now imagine lying in a clearing, the night sky above you, stars shining faintly between the silhouettes of trees. You breathe in, and though the world feels still, the leaves around you are still working, still creating, still shaping the air. The forest is a vast, breathing presence, and you are part of it. Even in the darkness, even when the sun has set, the rhythm continues. For though photosynthesis rests at night, the forest does not cease to breathe. It lives on and at dawn begins again, endlessly repeating its quiet work. The miracle of photosynthesis, the endless labor of leaves, is one of the simplest and yet most powerful forces on earth. It requires no engine, no wires, no human hand, only sunlight, water, and air. And yet, from these simple things, the forests build oxygen, food, life. They are the oxygen factories, the quiet machines of existence. As you breathe gently now, perhaps feel gratitude for the unseen workers of this world, the leaves swaying the breeze, the roots drawing up water, the branches spreading wide to catch the light. They do not ask for thanks. They do not demand attention. And yet without them, none of us would be here. So, the next time you step outside, take a moment to pause, look at a tree, even a single tree by the roadside, and remember the gift it gives. Remember that within its leaves, sunlight is being turned into air. Remember that every breath you take is part of a cycle shared with forests, with jungles, with grasses, with the entire green earth. The forests are not factories in the way humans build them. They are factories of grace, factories of patience, factories of life. They are quiet, humble, and eternal. They are the oxygen factories of earth, and through them, life continues to breathe. So, breathe deeply now, softly, slowly, and know that with every inhale, you are joining the forest in its endless work. You are part of its rhythm, part of its song, part of its gentle and eternal breath. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a forest, not just the tall trunks and the leaves above, but everything that dwells within it. The forest is not empty. It is alive. It is full of movement, of voices, of hidden eyes watching from the shadows. The forest is, above all, a home, a sanctuary for life in all its shapes and sizes. Think of the great canopy first, high above the ground, where the branches of giant trees weave together like a roof. This green ceiling is not just shade, it is a neighborhood, a city in the sky. Birds build their nests here, weaving twigs and leaves into cradles for their young. Parrots, toucans, and cockatoos brighten the air with flashes of color, while eagles and hawks patrol the heights with silent wings. Tiny insects crawl along the branches, butterflies rest on leaves, monkeys leap from tree to tree, their tails swinging like ropes. It is a world high above the earth, full of voices, songs, and the rustle of wings. Now, let your mind drift downward. Beneath the canopy lies another layer, the understory, darker, quieter, more mysterious. Here, vines twist like ropes, ferns spread their fronds, and orchids cling to branches. In this twilight realm, creatures hide in the dimness. Jaguars prowl softly. Snakes coil along branches. Frogs with bright patterns rest silently, waiting for insects to come near. Bats hang upside down, hidden in the shade, waiting for night to bring them out again. And lower still, near the forest floor, the air grows cooler, damper, richer with the smell of earth and fallen leaves. The ground is soft with moss and littered with decaying wood, which itself is alive with beetles, ants, and fungi. Here, small rodents scurry, wild pigs root for food, and deer step cautiously among the trees. Predators follow them, tigers in Asia, pumas in the Americas, wolves and bears in colder forests. All of them, in some way, rely on the shelter of the forest. Even beneath the soil, life continues. Roots spread wide, making homes for earthworms, termites, and countless tiny microbes, each one unseen but vital. These hidden creatures recycle nutrients, making the soil fertile so that new plants may grow, so that the cycle of life can continue. The forest is not only for the mighty and the visible, it is also for the delicate and the small. The hummingbird, no bigger than your thumb, darts from flower to flower, sipping nectar and carrying pollen. The ant, lifting burdens many times its own weight, builds colonies beneath fallen logs. The dragonfly, glimmering like a jewel, hunts across pools of water. These creatures are just as much a part of the forest home as the great elephants or the towering eagles. And then there are the animals that depend on the forest for more than food or shelter. Some need the forest for family, for belonging, for their very identity. Gorillas live in close-knit troops, each one bound by bonds of care and protection. Wolves move as packs, their howls echoing through pine forests beneath the moon. Even birds, small and fragile, return to the same trees year after year, nesting in the same branches, passing on the same home to their young. Imagine, for a moment, standing still at dawn in the middle of such a forest. The world is hushed, but slowly, the air begins to fill with sound. A chorus of bird songs rises, some sweet and melodic, others sharp and shrill. The rustle of leaves announces the passing of a deer, stepping softly. Monkeys chatter in the treetops, insects buzz in the air, frogs croak by hidden streams. It is a living orchestra, each sound part of the greater song of the forest. And you, standing quietly, are a listener in their vast home. Forests are among the most diverse habitats on Earth. They house more than half of all species, more than half of every form of life that has ever been named and studied. From the tiniest microorganism to the largest mammals, forests provide what is needed: food, shelter, water, safety. Without forests, many of these creatures could not survive. Their homes would vanish. Their songs would fall silent. The great rainforests, like the Amazon, are sometimes called the Noah's Ark of life. Inside them are millions of species that may never even have been seen by human eyes. A single tree can host hundreds of insects, fungi, and plants, all living in harmony, each one finding a niche in the vast puzzled ecosystem. It is a reminder that the forest is not one home, but countless homes woven together, side by side, layer upon layer. But even the forests of the north, the taiga, stretching across cold lands, are teeming with their own life. Moose, elk, lynxes, and owls thrive here, built for the colder air. These forests may seem quieter than the tropics, but their homes are no less vital for creatures that depend on snow, on long winters. These places are the only sanctuaries they have. The beauty of the forest as a home lies not only in its diversity, but in its generosity. A tree does not choose who may rest in its branches. A stream does not refuse the deer who comes to drink. The forest gives freely to all who need shelter, food, water, and protection. It is a vast, living shelter, a cathedral of green under which countless creatures take refuge. And just as the forests give to animals, it also shapes their very being. Birds' beaks are curved for fruits they eat. Insects are camouflaged to match the bark they crawl upon. Jaguar spotted coats melt into the dappled light. The forest is not just their home, it has sculpted them, generation after generation, shaping their forms, their colors, their lives. Even in myth and story, forests are remembered as homes for mysterious creatures, elves and spirits, wise owls and talking wolves. Ancient people knew that forests sheltered life beyond what the eye could see, and in many ways they were right. For even today, new species are discovered in forests, tiny frogs, unknown orchids, new kinds of insects, proving that the forest story as a home is still being written. So, as you picture a forest now, drifting deeper into calm, remember that it is not only a collection of trees. It is a house without walls, a roof without bricks, yet more complete than any home humans could build. It is alive with whispers and songs, with paw prints in the soil, with nests in the branches, with burrows hidden in the ground. It is a great sanctuary of life, the place where Earth's creatures dwell. And when you breathe in softly, slowly, perhaps you can imagine that you are not alone. Perhaps you can hear the faint call of an owl in the distance, or the rustle of a fox passing by. The forest is a home for them, but in a way, it is also a home for us, reminding us that we, too, are part of this great family of life. The forest is not silent, and it is not empty. It is alive. It is full. It is a home. The most ancient and most generous home the earth has ever known. The forest is not only a home, not only a sanctuary for life. It is also a guardian, watching over the balance of the earth itself. When we call forests the lungs of the planet, it is more than a poetic phrase. It is a truth that runs deep. They breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, holding the rhythm of the atmosphere in their leaves and branches. Imagine, for a moment, the sunlight falling on the canopy. Each leaf, each delicate green surface, quietly pulling carbon dioxide from the air. The leaf drinks in light, drinks in air, and transforms into sugar, into life, into oxygen that drifts back into the sky. Multiply this by billions upon billions of leaves, and you begin to see the invisible work the forest does each day. It is like an orchestra of breath, a constant balancing, a silent guardian keeping the climate steady. The story of climate is often told through numbers, degrees of warming, levels of greenhouse gases, charts that climb higher year after year. But behind these numbers stands a quiet work of forests absorbing carbon, storing it in their trunks, their roots, their soils. Each great tree is a reservoir, holding the breath of centuries inside its rings. A giant redwood in California may stand for thousands of years, capturing carbon through all that time, never pausing, never tiring. When forests are healthy, they keep the climate calm. They take in more carbon than they release. They regulate temperature. They send moisture into the air. They hold the land steady beneath their roots. But when forests are cut down or burned, the balance shifts. Instead of guarding the climate, they release what they once held. Carbon rushes into the sky. The air grows heavy. The climate becomes unstable. Close your eyes and imagine the Amazon rainforest stretching endlessly across South America. It is so vast that it creates its own weather, its own clouds, its own rainfall. Moisture rises from the trees like invisible breath, forming clouds that drift and fall again as rain. The forest waters itself, keeps itself alive, and in doing so, cools the air of the entire region. This gentle cycle of evaporation and rain is one of the ways forests act as climate guardians. If the Amazon were to disappear, the rains themselves would falter, and the earth would lose a piece of its balance. Forests of the north also play their part. The great boreal forests, called the taiga, stretch in a green belt across Russia, Canada, and Scandinavia. These forests store immense amount of carbon in their soils and the mosses in the frozen ground beneath. This carbon has been locked away for thousands of years, and as long as the forests remain, the carbon stays safe. But if the taiga warms, if the permafrost melts, this carbon could be released, tipping the balance of the Earth's climate. Forests do not only guard through storage, they also guard through shade. Imagine walking into a forest on a hot summer's day. The air cools, the sunlight softens, the ground feels damp and calm. This cooling effect, magnified across vast areas of land, helps regulate local climates. Villages near forests are often cooler. Rivers shaded by forests run colder, and winds softened by trees carry a gentler touch. These small, local guardianship roles add up, weaving into the larger climate system of the planet. And there's another, quieter way in which forests protect the earth, through albedo, the reflection of sunlight. Dark green forests absorb light, holding warmth, while lighter surfaces, like snow, reflect it away. The balance between forest and snow, between light and dark, plays a delicate role in the temperature of the earth. The forests know this balance. They keep it in their ancient rhythm. Though we often do not see it, stories remind us too. In many cultures, forests are said to have spirits that watch over the world. In old European tales, the green man, carved into stone, was a symbol of renewal and protection. In South American traditions, forest spirits were guardians of rain and wind. These stories, though symbolic, carry a truth. The forest really does act as a guardian, not only for people, but for the climate itself. Picture again the trees breathing, a giant cycle, each leaf taking in what is heavy and giving out what is light. Forests take in what would smother the sky, what would trap heat and disturb balance, and they hold it, quietly, patiently, without asking for thanks. They are the silent stewards of balance, and yet they are fragile guardians. When they fall, when chainsaws cut or fires sweep, their guardianship weakens. The balance shifts, the climate responds. Storms grow stronger, droughts stretch longer. It is as if the watchful protectors are silenced, and the earth grows restless. But when we protect forests, when we allow them to grow, when we plant and restore them, we are not only saving trees, we are strengthening our climate's guardians. Every seedling planted is a future protector. Every restored growth, a future reservoir balance. We are, in truth, giving the earth new lungs, new shields, new guardians. So, when you think of forests now, remember this deeper role. They are not just beautiful, not just green. They are protectors, guardians, keepers of the earth's breath. They hold the climate steady. They keep the balance calm. They are the silent watchmen of the planet. And without them, the earth would struggle to breathe. As you drift deeper into calm, imagine the trees around you, tall and ancient. Feel their breath joining yours, their stillness wrapping around you. You are safe, because they are watching quietly, gently, guarding the climate of the only home we share. Forests are not only lungs, not only guardians of climate, they are also the keepers of water. They guide the journey of every drop, from cloud to leaf, from river to ocean. They are, in truth, the helpers of the water cycle, quietly shaping rain, rivers, and life itself. Close your eyes and picture rain falling onto a dense forest canopy. The drops do not crash straight to the ground. They meet leaves first, sliding gently along the green surface, some captured, some evaporating back into the air. The forest slows the rain, softens it, holds it. This is the beginning of its role in the water cycle. Moisture, when it lands, does not simply vanish into the soil. The roots drink it in, holding water like a sponge, keeping it from rushing away too quickly. Later, the trees release that same water through tiny pores in their leaves, invisible breaths of moisture, drifting upward, returning to the sky. This quiet process, called transpiration, is one of the forest's greatest gifts. Billions of tiny streams of water vapor rise each day, forming clouds, creating rain. The Amazon rainforest, sometimes called a flying river, is the most powerful example. The trees there release so much water vapor that it forms its own weather system. Moisture rises from the canopy, gathers into clouds, and drifts across the continent. Some of the rain that falls in Brazil began as vapor from the forest itself. Without this cycle, whole regions would dry, rivers would shrink, farmlands would fade. The forest keeps the rains alive. Now think of a mountain forest. The clouds gather against the high slopes, thick with moisture. The trees, with their leaves and needles, catch the fog and mist, pulling water straight from the air. The droplets collect, drip, and slide down to the roots, feeding the streams below. These mountain forests are like great water towers, holding snow in winter, releasing meltwater in spring, feeding rivers that reach faraway cities. From the Himalayas to the Rockies, from the Andes to the Alps, forests store and release water in a rhythm that sustains millions of lives. Forests also act as protectors of rivers. Imagine a bare hillside after heavy rain. Without trees, the soil washes away. Rivers fill with mud. Floods crash down the valley. But when forests stand, their roots bind the soil. Their canopy slows the rain. Their sponge-like ground absorbs the water. Instead of violent floods, the water trickles down gently, feeding streams through dry months, keeping rivers steady. In this way, forests do not just help the water cycle, they tame it, soften its extremes. Stories of water and forests appear in many traditions. In Japan, the practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is linked to a sense of cleansing, as if the forest air itself washes the spirit. In Native American traditions, rivers and forests are seen as relatives bound together, guardians of one another. Science now shows us the truth within those stories. The water cycle and the forest are indeed bound. One cannot thrive without the other. Forests also influence the great global currents of moisture. Winds carry water vapor thousands of miles, and forests help set these winds in motion. Evaporation from African rainforests feeds rains across the Sahel. Moisture from the Amazon drifts into the Andes. Even distant lands depend on forests they may never see. It is as if the trees breathe not only for themselves, but for the whole world. And yet, when forests fall, the cycle weakens. The rain becomes irregular, droughts appear, floods strike harder. Without trees, the water runs off too quickly, the land dries, the rivers shrink. Farmers feel the change, animals feel it, whole ecosystems shift. The helpers of the water cycle are silenced, and the rhythm breaks. But when we restore forests, when we let them grow again, the water returns. Springs reappear, rivers grow steadier, rains become gentle once more. In India, villages that replanted forests saw their wells refill, their streams return. In Africa, reforestation projects brought back rainfall to regions that had dried. It is almost as if the forest remembers its ancient role, and once given a chance, it resumes its duty as water's companion. So, as you drift now, think of the water cycle as a circle drawn by forests. The rain falls, the roots hold, the leaves release, the clouds gather, and the rain falls again. A timeless loop, kept alive by the silent work of trees. You may imagine yourself beneath a great oak or a towering cedar. Feel the cool dampness of the ground, the gentle mist in the air. You are inside the water story, inside the forest's rhythm. And with each breath, you are part of the cycle too. Forests are not only living systems of wood and leaf, they are also sanctuaries of meaning, memory, and spirit. For as long as humans have walked this earth, forests have been places of story, of reverence, and of wonder. Think of ancient tales. In European folklore, the deep woods were mysterious realms, where fairies danced, where heroes wandered, where wisdom was found in quiet groves. In Asian traditions, forests became homes of sages and monks who sought silence beneath the trees, finding enlightenment in the stillness. And in many indigenous cultures, forests are kin, not resources but relatives, holding the spirits of ancestors and teaching lessons through the whisper of wind and the rustle of leaves. Forests are also sacred spaces. The sacred groves of India, carefully protected for thousands of years, are places where no tree may be cut, no soil disturbed. They are living temples, where people bring offerings, prayers, and gratitude. In Africa, too, sacred forests have been protected for generations, serving as spiritual centers and gathering places. In Japan, the tall cedar trees of Shinto shrines are considered divine, wrapped in sacred ropes, honored as vessels of spirit. When we walk into a forest, something ancient stirs within us. Our breathing slows, our hearts find rhythm with the sway of branches, our minds soften. Science now confirms what cultures have always known. Forests calm us. The practice of forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, shows measurable effects: lower stress, steadier heartbeats, and a deeper sense of peace. But beyond science, the experience is simple. In the forest, we feel held, sheltered, and connected to something larger than ourselves. Forests also inspire art, poetry, and song. Painters have tried to capture their endless shades of green. Poets have compared them to cathedrals. Musicians have echoed their quiet songs of birds and streams. The forest, in this way, becomes a cultural mirror. It reflects what we hold inside: mystery, reverence, beauty, and longing. In every continent, people return to forests for ritual, for healing, for silence. These sanctuaries remind us that not all value is measured in wood or soil. Not all wealth is in currency. Some treasures are in the hush of tall trees, the cool shadow of the canopy, the sense that we are part of something timeless and sacred. And now, as we arrive at the final keynote, let us reflect on our role. Forests breathe for us, shelter us, feed us, heal us, and guide our rains and rivers. They offer culture, spirit, beauty, and peace, and yet their survival depends on us. This is our shared responsibility. Every choice we make in what we consume, in how we live, in how we treat land, ripples into the forest. When we protect them, they flourish. When we destroy them, they vanish silently, taking with them water, life, and balance. But the story is not only one of loss, it is also one of hope. Around the world, people are restoring forests, replanting trees, protecting sacred groves, creating parks, and building corridors for wildlife. In Costa Rica, reforestation brought back jungles once cut down. In Ethiopia, millions gather to plant trees in a single day. In Europe, abandoned farmlands are returning to wild woods. And everywhere from cities to villages, people are rediscovering the joy of planting a tree, of watching it grow, of giving back to the earth. Each of us holds a piece of this responsibility. It may be as small as caring for a garden, as simple as reducing waste, as mindful as supporting conservation, or as heartfelt as teaching children the stories of trees. These small acts, together, form great forest protection. Forests are not just resources. They are partners, guardians, and companions on this journey of life. And so, to honor them, we must walk gently, remembering that when we protect forests, we are protecting ourselves, our children, and the breath of the planet itself. So, as we close, let us carry this thought with us into rest, that the trees outside our windows, the forests across continents, and the hidden groves we may never see, are all part of one living network, breathing with us, holding us. May you drift now into a deep and peaceful sleep, knowing that you're connected to this vast, green, breathing world. May the forest's quiet rhythm guide your dreams, soft and calm. Good night and goodbye, softly, gently until we meet again.